When I came on staff at Orlando Baptist Church as an associate pastor, I had no idea the season that we would be heading into. In 2016, I became the interim pastor when our current pastor stepped down. There were some accusations and some bad decisions that he made that ultimately led to his resignation. The church was involved in a lawsuit. Because of that, there were picketers in front of our church for about 3 or 4 weeks. We lost a lot of people. It was a hard season in the life of our church. It was a hard season for me as a brand new pastor, getting through the 12 months of crisis and getting on the other side and realizing, okay, we're going to be okay. That's really when I had the most questions, wanting to see God open doors in our community and in our neighborhood. And it seemed like those doors weren't opening up. And I believe God used that through that time to really focus our church on what he had for us next. Like most churches, when we shut down for COVID, we thought it was just going to be a temporary situation. And during that time, we became really aware of our homeless neighbors. We began to pray and ask God to open doors for us to serve in our community. We had a small group of people that would get together on Fridays. We would pack a few sack lunches and just go out and meet our neighbors and give them a lunch and pray with them. And then we started a once a month service here on campus. We provided some resources and a hot meal, and we had a service, and we began to see people come to faith. We began to see people take next steps. That's when God began to open some new doors and some new relationships for Freeway Ministries.
It was 2020 when I got a call from Pastor Dustin, and he reached out saying, "We're doing a homeless outreach ministry here. We heard about Freeway Ministries. I would love to talk to you more about it." We flew out here in 2021 and we got to visit them. We're in the middle of the summer. We're going in these homeless camps. It's hot. And when we went out there, the people started coming out of their tents, or the people we meet on the streets. They say, "Pastor Dustin, Pastor Dustin." They knew him by name and he knew them by name. So that just showed us that he's out with them every week. October of 2022, we moved to Orlando, Florida officially to launch Freeway Orlando.
So Freeway Ministries is a recovery ministry that focuses on discipleship.
We hold a weekly service, and then we open discipleship houses.
We didn't know how we would be able to have a house. On a Sunday morning, I presented to our church that Freeway Ministries would be launching and to begin to pray. That Sunday, we received a large gift in our offering of $10,000. And in our church context, that never happens. Even more uniquely, we didn't know who this person was who had given the money, but it felt like God's confirmation that he was providing for this ministry. The next Sunday, we had the founder of Freeway Ministries from Springfield, Missouri, preach in our service. This same individual gave $20,000. When my team let me know about it, I told them to contact the person and make sure that they meant to actually give the money. So they sent an email, and this person wrote back and said, "Yeah, just love what you guys are doing. If the pastor has time to meet, I have some good news for him." I was excited to set that meeting up. We sit down at the table in my office, and he says, "Well, just to let you know, I thought I was giving money to a different church this whole time." He did let me off the hook pretty quickly and said, "It's okay, it's God's money." So I shared with him how God had been leading in ministry with our homeless neighbors and those in addiction and in need of recovery. By the time I finished talking about that, he was moved and said, "This is incredible. I'm gonna go get my checkbook out of the car." And he came back in, wrote a check for another $20,000. And he said, "Well, tell me more about the house." I said, "Well, we're gonna have to raise money for that. So we think that'll probably be in a year or two." And he said, "Well, what if I give you $100,000? Would that help?" And I said, "Oh, wow." And he said, "Well, what if I give you $200,000? And now I'm at a total loss for words. And then he says, "Well, what if I give you $1 million? Because that's what I want to do. I want to give you $1 million to get this ministry started." And by this time, I'm in tears. And I just said, "You have no idea how God will use this."
I mean, you can't make that out. Nobody went and pitched a vision for Freeway to this man. God just sent him out of nowhere. We had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Through that gift, we've already bought 2 houses, and we still have money in the bank for the next house when the time comes. Now we find ourselves in this season, and we look back and we see all of the things that God has done, and we see so clearly his plan and his hand and the story that he's been weaving. So we're just count it a blessing to be along for the ride, and we're trusting him for what comes next.